thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to enjoy your company and your knowledge, of course.
Likewise. So today I want to learn a little bit more about you, what you do, but let's start off with you. So tell me about you, Isa.
So I'm Puerto Rican, very proud of that, but my mom is Venezuelan, so I guess it was meant to be that I was going to be an immigration attorney with that background.
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit, yes, it happened. And I went to undergrad at UM in Miami because it's all about the U.
I went to UM too, so go Canes.
We know, it's all about the U. But then later for law school, I thought I would enjoy the cold, and I went to Penn State. I don't enjoy the cold at all.
You figured it out.
Yeah, so 15 years after law school, I've stayed in Miami, love it, built my practice here, and I'm happy to practice immigration law along in the beautiful city that we share.
Awesome, awesome. So immigration, I mean, that is a wide area of law. Who do you specifically help?
So it's interesting because I'm board certified, and for immigration in particular, to be board certified is very annoying that they force you to learn everything you need to know about immigration. Right. What I love to do are removal cases, people going to court and fighting those cases. What we do on a regular basis, though, which for some reason my staff loves, is the one-on-one with clients, particularly foreign clients, because I forgot to mention that I'm happily married to an Argentine man. So it means I get a lot of Argentines looking to open businesses here. And those are the main clients that I like to share with you because they like your touch to help them with the business, and I can help them with the visa.
Awesome. Argentina. And Argentina is one of those E2 countries, right?
Correct.
For the E2 visa.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about those clients that come to your office and they're looking to move to the United States. They're business owners in their own country. What does that look like when they come to your office? What are they looking for?
The main E2 client will call himself an investor, and they normally come to the office being like, I want the investor visa. Now, the investor visa that's famous and known worldwide is called the EB-5, and that one requires a lot of money invested, creation of a lot of employment, 10 positions, $1.9 million. It's a lot of money.
Right.
Most of our clients don't have that, at least from the get-go, at the beginning. The E2 is a visa option. It's a great option to invest, or at least start investing until you have enough to that EB-5, or to just keep the status basically until your country keeps a treaty with the US. That's the essential part of the E2 visa, because you can imagine there's many investors from great countries like, I'm trying to think, Nigeria, or, well, Nigeria has a treaty. Brazil is a great country, a lot of funds, they want to come invest.
Right.
But when they come here looking for the E2 visa, there's no treaty, at least not at the moment. So the typical E2 investor is somebody looking for that investor visa who might not have enough to that green card position, and it's also a treaty country that has a connection with the US.
Okay, so you mentioned that they have to be part of the treaty and they have to make an investment here in the US. So what does that investment look like?
You asked the main question that my clients ask, which in prettier words, my clients will be like, how much do I need to invest?
Right.
So the main thing, and the way I answer is very attorney, it depends.
I know.
It's so annoying, I know.
I know.
The funds need to be at risk. So it's not so much how much I'm investing, is what do I need to invest? The main part of any E2 visa is the business plan. That's where attorneys like you are essential for immigration lawyers like me, because we need an experienced person that can help the client create the business and also have that business plan that says, to open the business, you need to buy this computer, rent this space, hire this amount of people. And that will determine the amount that needs to be invested. So for any client looking to invest and have the investor visa, first step, know what you want to do in the US.
Right. So is it open to any type of industry? So can they open a restaurant? Can they open a hotel? Is there any kind of industry that is not good for the E2, or are there some that are better for the E2?
It's open to all industries, but you're right, there's some that are not good. If you have a business that you can run by yourself, the basis, the backbone after the business plan must have these employees. You must be contributing to the economy of the country.
Right.
So if you're a blogger, you're great at social media, and you're going to invest in your own social media company, you might not need those employees. You might not need to rent a space. You might only need a computer and your set. That's not going to be enough, because you're not really helping the economy. So that's a very important aspect. All those solos that can work on their own with minimal investment, yeah, the US would love to have you, but the E2 might not be the best way to go.
Right, and then there's not a lot of money at risk, right? Because if all you need is your laptop and you can work from home, they don't see that you have any skin in the game.
Correct, and it goes to the second part. I have many clients who told me, I have $1 gazillion in my bank account, I'm set, just give me the visa. There's nothing at risk if you just have the money sitting there and no plan for it. So understand that a little money invested with no growth in the economy, not good enough. And a lot of money saved that you might spend in the future if you get the visa, also not good enough. It's a circular visa. The business needs to be up and running. If you don't have the clients, they're going to come tomorrow.
Right.
And then you can apply.
Right. And when I have some of those E2 visa clients come in, they ask me a lot about, okay, would it be better for my visa if I franchise or buy a franchise? Is it better if I start from zero? Or can I bring my business here and open a location, buy an existing business? Out of those options, does it make a difference on the immigration side, whether they choose to buy a franchise, start from zero, or buy an existing business?
On the immigration side, the way it makes a difference is franchises tend to be expensive. You're going to notice McDonald's is pricey, Subway is pricey.
Right.
And there is a bit of a guarantee that you will be hiring these employees, that you will be contributing to the economy. So it's a balancing of, I'm going to have a high investment, a high amount at risk, and also it's going to be continuing with the business plan. So that's the benefit of the franchise, but it's also a benefit many people cannot afford. Franchises are typically used for those who are trying to find out where they're going to go, what are they going to do.
Right.
A good example in Miami, the Cow Bakery is a very recent successful franchise for E2 purposes. Now, on the other side, if you already have an idea, maybe you know you want to open a restaurant, but you don't know where, you don't know what to do. You may do a market analysis, but maybe you don't have the time to do so or the funds to do so.
Right.
Buying an existing restaurant might be the best option for you. So it's really more of your
Situation.
needs. Yes, but for
Gotcha.
immigration, all they're going to care is that you're investing money and that money is leading to something more
Right.
growth, more clients, and definitely more employees.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it really depends on the investor because there's some investors that are very business minded and they know what industry they're coming into. Let's say a restaurant, they're restaurateurs in their own country, so they're coming here. They know exactly what to do, right? Maybe they have to do a little bit more regulation, but with the franchise, it's great because it's turnkey. But you know, I tell my clients you have to do the numbers because the margins with the royalties and stuff like that. You don't want to have to get out later on because you're not making money and your visa depends on it, right?
You said it perfectly. Sometimes franchises, you may think they're stable and for some reason they're not. Very common franchises that are doing tutoring. You may think tutoring, yeah, of course it's going to work out. And then COVID happens, a hurricane happens, and the business goes under. If your E2 investments, once you have the visa, if the E2 investment goes under, but you've been following the business plan, you may try to even renew your visa saying, I know it didn't work out perfectly in terms of numbers, but I've been following the plan, I'm still growing, I'm still trying. But if you fully close it or you change anything in between, that's where you have that sticky situation of maybe losing the visa that you worked so hard to get.
You mentioned something about doing changes, so now you piqued my interest. So once a business is open, you got your client the E2 visa. What kind of changes should they consult you about before they make those changes that maybe if it was another business, it wouldn't matter?
Well, what's interesting is where the place is incorporated. We, especially in the Hispanic culture, we may think where we're going to practice, where we're going to work, that's where we should be incorporated. That's where the corporation should be located.
Okay.
And I have many clients who, pick Delaware because they just heard somewhere taxes are good, whatever. And they come to me saying, should I keep it there? Should I not go? And I explain, I don't personally, as immigration side, don't care if it's incorporated in Delaware, but understand that if you put your business address and you say you're going to be working in Delaware, you can't later on tell me, oh, I moved to Miami, and that was not part of the business plan. If you're going to be a multinational or a nationwide company, specify so in the business plan from the beginning. And also be specific with what you're going to do in a broad way, if that makes any sense. Let me give you an example.
Please.
I'm going to do mechanical work. I'm going to open my shop and I'm going to repair vehicles. On the side, I may sell the pieces and maybe I'll do some import-export and bring the pieces from abroad. You may want to mention all of that in the business plan if it's something you know you're going to be doing, because if later on you're successful in the import-export of parts and you no longer want to repair vehicles and you changed it and you didn't tell immigration, they may say you're not following the original E2, revoke, start over. Yes.
Okay, so it's
Live and
really
learn.
important that they give as much detail as possible to whomever is doing their business plan so that they include it in there and they later don't have to get in trouble.
Correct. And there may be things that come up later on, and that's okay. If later on you realize, oh, I want to add this to the business, let's consult it with the attorney or with your business lawyer. Maybe there's a way that it was already included in the business plan on a side note, or maybe it's a substantial change that we should let immigration know so your visa is not at risk.
Awesome. So is it better to over include and, rather than under include?
Personally, I like to make it as broad as possible.
Makes
with
sense.
that client, with the import export, I'm like, open body shop, which may include selling parts.
Right. And if you don't do it, that's fine. But if you do it, it's not an issue.
Exactly. As
Makes
broad
sense.
as possible. Also, I warn them, speak with your accountant. Business lawyers like you are essential, because maybe making it as broad as possible requires more permits, requires more employees, requires more expenses that you were not thinking of. It's good to know ahead of time.
Absolutely. Especially with immigration, you have to know everything. You did mention things of like that might be an issue. So for example, the business plan, not including certain things or changing things in the business. What obstacles do you see pre-business? So for example, they're coming to you for the visa, we created their business, and now you're in that process of obtaining that visa. What obstacles, or what are the most common obstacles that you see during that process?
Two common obstacles. One is, how do I bring the money in? How do I show? We need to show source of funds. Where is this money coming from? And you'll say, oh, I sold this property. Okay, who gave you this property? Abuelita gave me the property.
Okay.
And what did Abuelita do? I don't know. She's keeping the money underneath the pillow.
The mattress.
I don't know. I have no idea. Immigration might tell you, maybe Abuelita was in the cartel. I need to know where this money's coming from.
Right.
And that has been an issue because we don't always keep track of our records. We don't know. And of course, immigration attorneys, we can help you. Google is our best friend. You may end up learning a lot about Abuela as we're finding those sorts of funds. The second is, why do I need that employee or that location, that rental? I don't need that for my business. You might not need it for the business, but if you're not going to have any employees, if you're not going to rent the space, where is the business located? That's an essential part of the business plan.
Right.
And it's not a capricho of the attorney. It's a requirement for immigration. So
Right.
those are the two main obstacles, saying, where did the money come from? And I don't really need this, but maybe I should spend money on it.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, because I think that especially after COVID, there's this option of virtual is affordable and it's doable for almost any industry. So you want to save that money, right? Especially as a business owner. But for immigration purposes, they need you to have a physical location.
And COVID was interesting because during that time, I guess it shows my age, I started getting all those influencers who are like, I'm going to invest in myself. And I want to eat too. And I'm like, no way, go away. Never going to happen. And then I realized, oh my God, these influencers are renting studios and hiring makeup artists as full-time employees, agents. Now it's something new. So the business may also change. Keep that in mind. If you had to call me last week and tell me I'm going to sell weed and that's going to be my E2 investment, I might be like, not a good idea. But now, depending, do you have partners? Where are you selling it? Is it allowed? There are things that you may consider that may change with time. COVID is the best example.
You know, it's so funny you mentioned that because now I feel very old, right? Because things that were never going to be jobs or career choices when we were younger or when we were picking our career are, right, they're careers now and very profitable careers. And like you mentioned, influencers, that's huge. And they make a lot of money. And they, you see them behind this, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes, and
100%.
That makes them eligible.
But for us, people that before influencers,
The old school people.
real estate. Back in the day, real estate was an area in which you said, I have 10 houses. I want the E2. And people would tell you, well, how are you going to get employees? You only have contractors.
Right.
Now we even have companies who do solely Airbnb. And they could use those 10 houses to hire the person who does your maintenance, your contractor, the one who answers the phones, the receptionist. They end up being huge enterprises that before with 10 houses, I'll be like, I'm sorry, no way. And now I'm like, let's discuss. Maybe there's an E2 there.
Let's discuss. So it depends on how you're going to use that real estate.
Correct.
Because I have heard cases where they bought an investment property and they kind of want to use it for a business, but that's not enough for E2 because it's just a rental, let's say.
Exactly. If it's what they call passive income, passive investments, you're getting the money, you're getting paid just to have the property there, good for you, not good for your visa.
Right.
But if you have a property that you need somebody going and cleaning and fixing, that you're hiring, not a company that you have somebody who is your maintenance, your housekeeping, your employee, then you could justify starting with one house and ending up in 10. Also, the market area counts. There's a big difference between buying a house in, I mean, I've never been.
Nebraska?
Yeah.
I've never been either. No judgment to Nebraska, guys.
Maybe
but
they need a lot of, I don't know. But if there or San Juan, Puerto Rico, that's beautiful and all the people are cool and you want to have a lot
no
of
bias,
houses.
right?
No, completely neutral opinion. But that's also something that goes into the business plan and the visa and its success. So it's important to keep in mind.
Right.
Just talk to your lawyer. We'll guide you.
Right. And so have you seen any horror stories of, I don't know, people that try to do it themselves, right? They came, they're like, abogada, I have my business, it's set up, my primo helped me, my accountant helped me. What does that look like? How does it affect the process? And if you can tell us a story with no names, of course.
Oh, I will. No names, but I will. So 2 horror stories in one. First is my business plan was created by my accountant. He knows what he's doing. He can get me a lot of money. He manages my funds. He's the best. I don't doubt it. He might be the best. Does he understand that this is not to make money? This is for you to get a visa. It's different. The business plan is different in the accountant world, and they're trying to get people to invest in your business than in the immigration world, in which you're trying to see how you spend your money and how you're going to generate funds in the future.
Right.
Absolutely different. Fighting when telling them your accountant's great, but you need another business plan has been a nightmare. On the other side, I already invested. That's why I gave you the example of like $1 zillion in the bank. I already invested millions on this. And when you ask, what is it? Is this house that I'm remodeling? Okay.
Sure, it's going to be beautiful.
Gorgeous. Exactly. Gorgeous. So my horror story is somebody who spent over $10 million. The house is amazing. It's on Star Island. Check it out. Beautiful. But that's it. There was not a company who would continue flipping. None of the employees who worked on the house were his employees.
They were contractors?
Yeah. He just opened a corporation, purchased the house under the corporation name, and thought, that's it. I'm going to get my E2 because I'm rich. That's not really how it works. So that was a horror story of a lot of money involved and the evil attorney having to tell him, you can go somewhere else if you want, but you're going to get denied, which ended up happening. And it ended up being a pleasant ending for the lawyer, getting the phone call like, oh, you were right, but definitely sad for the client who found out this was going to happen after the investment.
Yeah, those are the type of stories where you don't want to say, I told you so.
Oh, yes.
Because it stinks for the client.
And people with funds will fight. Like this particular client sued the realtor, saying you sold me smoke. It was a nightmare. That's why I shared it.
Well, I mean, the thing about foreigners is that they're kind of a vulnerable population, right? Because they're coming here and they're trusting whoever their contact is, and sometimes those contacts aren't trustworthy, which is why it's so important not only that they do their due diligence when they pick an attorney and make sure that they're actually an attorney, but also that it's someone trustworthy that knows what they're doing and not dabbling in immigration.
Well, you mentioned the attorney who is really an attorney. I gave you the example of the accountant who says, oh, I got this, but does it in an accountant way, not in a business attorney way.
Right.
Well, in Latin America, we have our notarios, and we also have very knowledgeable, great paralegals who are not attorneys.
Right.
Not knowing the law and how it changes. The immigration law has not changed in over 25 years. But the reality is the decisions change and the law around us changes as well. So it affects immigration. Not having an attorney that stays up to date is a big problem. Especially it's a big investment. You might be looking to move, relocate, change your life. Worth it to spend the money to make sure you're properly advised.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen this because I don't know if they've shown up on your doorstep, but I've seen people that they say, but I hired an attorney. They had a website. And it ended up being that they were not attorneys, but they thought, they had a website. It was legit. Have you seen cases like that they've come to you and they're like, oh, but I thought I hired an attorney?
Yes, and I'll add to particularly immigration law. Immigration law is federal, so it means that attorneys can practice it. Attorneys licensed in Florida, New York, can practice it in any state, and you can practice it anywhere in the world.
Right.
You may be an attorney in your home country. You may be an attorney in another state and not be able to be found or take action against your license, which I don't want people to do, but it's good to know that somebody's licensed.
Right.
It's difficult for somebody abroad to find out if the attorney's licensed or not, depending on where they took the bar. And the person may be very well suited to represent you, but you don't know. Or you may think this website is excellent, this person's excellent, and it turns out to be smoke. What we try to do to help our clients, we can't tell the client who to go with or who, but we do try to assemble teams that can go abroad, particularly countries that are most vulnerable based on past experiences like Argentina, Colombia,
Right.
Brazil, to guide them a little bit. Go and do conferences and events to mention we're here, we're legit, not a sales pitch, but this is a team that you should consider. Because these are countries that have given attorneys bags of money, trusting that
Yeah.
something will happen. And then later on, you are right, I get them on my doorstep and they come with the website information. I have to Google and tell them, nope, not real, or not here, or in some place where we can't have any action. If you have received the wrong advice from an attorney,
Right.
and that has severe immigration consequences, there may be steps you can take to
Right.
try to bring your status back, but you need to be quick, and once you lose it, it's complicated. So make sure, if anyone forgets everything I said, at least remember, plan ahead.
Right.
Don't start with the plan once you're in the US already here. It's
Right.
best to plan what you're gonna do before you come.
Right. Bring me to my next point perfectly. So what do you recommend is the first step? Because you mentioned this horror story where the client was like, I'm ready, my business is ready, but they hadn't come to see you first to even see if that business would be viable for what they wanted to do. So what would you recommend? Would it be they come to you first, you tell them what they're eligible for, and then where do they go? Because there's a lot of professionals that touch these investors, being from a realtor, a broker, a tax planning professional that help them with the pre-immigration planning, and you. So tell us a little bit about what you would recommend.
My ideal client would be somebody who comes to me when they have an idea of what they want to do. And if you don't have an idea, you're at least open to a suggestion.
Okay.
I previously mentioned the Cow Bakery and how that franchise has been helpful. And it's because many of my clients have purchased Cow Bakeries
Okay.
and they have been able to get their E2 status through the bakery. I confess, these clients are individuals who come and tell me, I have no idea what I want to do. Where should I go? And I'm like, well, this place is selling. I don't know, maybe you want to check it out. As attorneys, we have to be careful because we don't want to make it seem like we're pushing them.
Right.
So if you come with no idea, I may suggest they contact an attorney like yourself or somebody, or give you an idea of something that may be for sale. If not, then I would prefer the client who tells me, I know I want a restaurant. Do you know a restaurant might be for sale or an area, or this is what I want to do, but at least have an idea. The ones who come
Right.
saying, I want to come to the US, give me a lot of anxiety, keep me up at night, because I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to work it out? So those are the best, the ones who already have an idea, or if not, are open to a suggestion as to what might be out there.
Awesome. And I think that's where a good business broker would come into play, right? Where they
Yes.
can say, okay, this is the type of business, it's profitable already and it's for sale, versus this might not work so well, right?
Absolutely. We work very closely with many business brokers,
Right.
and we give many options to the clients. I confess I'm a bit biased when it comes to business attorneys and the actual corporate structure. I don't give many. You're one of the few, if not the only one. So it depends, but when it comes to business brokers, definitely we give many options so that they can get an idea of also what they want, because you may think you want a restaurant, and when you see how much it costs to open a little cafeteria in the corner,
Yeah.
you may all of a sudden want to do something else. So it's good to have a business broker that will tell you everything and how much it will cost to get it going.
Okay. And what do you see right now is taking the longest in the process?
The embassies.
Yeah.
We end up with the attorneys working quickly in the creation of the business plan being done. We will get it done 2-3 weeks. We send it to the embassy, and I'll give you a horror story. Colombia will call you at the last minute and be like, we're closed. No reason, no explanation.
We're off for the weekend.
We're not doing E2 visas. When are you going to come back? I don't know. Whenever we feel like it.
Are they
And
closed right now?
They just reopened. So that's
Okay.
why I'm sharing, because it just happened. So, and it would be months that you may be absolutely closed because an attorney, a consulate gets overwhelmed. Santiago, Chile did the same thing. No warning, we're closed. We're just gonna take a break, not do these visas anymore.
Wow.
The E2 visa is very attractive for people who qualify.
Right.
And it's great for our economy, but there's only so much personnel. And unless the government starts investing in more staff for the consulates, they're worried about the tourist visas they have pending, the residencies they have to give. They're worried about the students that need to come to school and they still can't get their student visas. So those will take priority over
Over the
the
E2.
investor. Although it's great for the economy, they're pending. So that's what's taking the longest, pushing the embassy to give us a date.
And so what does that time frame look like? So they completed their business, they bought it, and they submitted the business plan and all the documents to you. From then to when they get the visa, is it a year, a month?
No. That's why the E2 is another reason why it's great. Will depend highly on the embassy, but for example, an embassy like Canada will give it to you in a week. in Canada.
Really?
An embassy like
Amazing.
London, 2. An embassy like Colombia, maybe you'll take a month, but it's a month. So you spent 6-7 months preparing everything, developing your business, investing the money, hiring the people. You can wait a month more in your country to go have that
Right.
appointment, which is also important. Some people don't have the luxury of traveling back home to come back in to continue working. If that's the case, you can also change your status locally and pay more. Understand that my only warning to anyone who wishes to do that, you may be trapped in the US for at least 2 years. Because, yes, because if you were to travel, to come back, you have to go to the embassy again, wait for the embassy again, and basically start the process over. Bring the entire packet and ask the embassy to review it and to please let you back in. If you need to stay, understand that you're staying to work and you can change your status, but you're here until you're stable enough, and it will take 2 years.
Okay, that's good
to
to
know.
know. Yeah, but that is pretty quick, that
so.
time frame compared to all the other visas when someone's trying to get in, especially on the family side.
Oh,
There's some that are
yes.
taking a decade, right?
Yes, but this is different because what's different in the E2 is that it's a visa.
Right.
You'll notice anything that's visas because we have from A to V as in Victor, literally. That's A, B, C, and they all have a different meaning. B is the tourist visa, A is for diplomats. Everyone has a different. So E, investors. Now, when it comes to residency, to family petitions, you're actually looking at a residency, a green card.
Right.
And
So
that's why it takes so long, so long. It's ridiculous. Some visas are slow. A victim visa, U visa, can take 3 years or more to be processed. But most residencies are the ones that are need a very comfy chair, and a lot of patience to wait because it's very, very slow.
right, you're getting the green card right away.
Exactly. Once you're approved, unless you committed a crime or there may be some caveats there, but once you're approved, it's understood that the person who petitioned for you has the right to have you with them. So because that person is most likely a U.S. citizen or at least a U.S. resident, that's where it expedites it. But it expedites it after 15 years waiting in case of siblings.
Wow.
So if you love your sibling, you might want to petition for them now.
So you could get
and
them
wait.
here by their middle age.
Yeah, when they're 45 if you're young.
So if they, because you're mentioning that the E2 doesn't really have a green card attached to it, is there a way to eventually get a green card if you are here with an E2?
That's where having a good lawyer is essential because the reality is the E2, and you'll hear these fancy terms in immigration law, dual intent. The E2 is a visa that is not considered dual intent. That means that it's not the visa that you could easily transfer to a residency.
Right.
That means that you, investor, can't yourself be like, oh, Isadora Velazquez is a great investor. I'm going to petition for myself. No. But the E2, you're creating a corporation, and under corporate law, as you know, the corporations are people here.
Yeah.
If the corporation determines that you are an essential employee, there might be ways around it for the corporation to say, I need to petition for this person's residency. Now, it is a complicated process, and you do have to distance yourself from your own investment, which is, I'm not going to minimize it, difficult, but it is an option. And it's something that many clients definitely consider. Also, you may continue increasing the amount that you're investing to the point that you may reach that 1.8, 1.9 amount and have 10 employees, sufficient to qualify for the EB5 category, which would be the investor green card, which people confuse with the investor visa because they have the same name.
Right.
Confusing, I get it. So there might be options for you to later on get a green card if you start with the E2 process. Just make sure you discuss them with a lawyer, essential.
Right, because from the get-go, they can start seeing, how do we get you to that EB5, right? What information do we have to get from the existing business that you're buying in order so that you have that information for when you change it to get your green card?
Absolutely, because the EB5 has 2 categories. One is through a regional center. Regional centers require lower investment, and you don't have to worry that much about employees. The regional center will handle it, but understand that you're risking your money. You're giving $800,000 to a regional center and praying they don't go under and they finish the job and you get your residency. Most people might not want that. They want more control.
Right.
So they will be willing to spend twice that amount and reach $1.8 million and control their investment, reach the 10 employees, but it might happen in 2-3 years until they get to that amount. They might be able to start with the E2 process, add up, and then later on change to an EB5.
That's awesome.
It's an option.
Yeah, no, it's great because they'll be able to come faster to the U.S. and they build up to that to get the green card. That's fantastic.
In Miami, the best example I can give you are the startup, the boutique hotels. They start small, and then all of a sudden you are next to a Hilton or buying the Hilton. So you may end up in the EB5 category later on.
That is awesome. So what if they do not qualify for E2? They're a country that doesn't have that E2 treaty with the United States, but they still want, they're business owners, but they still want to come to the United States. So are there other options that they can think about?
Yes, for business owners, and particularly business owners who already have their business abroad. And I will tailor this to my Venezuelan community who thinks asylum is the only way to go. If you are an entrepreneur in Venezuela, maybe the business has been struggling. Yeah, things are happening all over the world. You may want to transfer, open a franchise of your business here. You don't qualify for the E category, but you're a business owner, opening a franchise. There's another visa, and once again, we love our ABCs. That's the L visa. It's good to keep your business in Venezuela going or wherever it may be, and open a franchise here in the US, and you can qualify for the L. The L also has categories. L1A is for the big boss, the manager, and the L1B is for your essential employee. So if you maybe open the company and you don't want to go, but you really need that person who needs to go manage it and they don't qualify for the E2, you can put them under the L1B category as that essential employee and send that essential employee. But it is essential that you have a company in the US and out of the US. So good to know for countries that may have complicated status.
That's awesome.
Brazil.
Yeah, exactly, right? You mentioned that they don't have that E2, but an L1 may be an option.
Correct. And they had it once, but then it was taken away. Hopefully will come back. So it's good to know that it's pretty stable. I've had my French clients on their E2 visas forever, but it's also good to know your country conditions and see what other options you may have. I have many clients who have double, triple nationalities. Maybe that embassy is faster than the other one. Maybe this country is in a better condition than the next one. Pick and choose with the one that you want. And bring your spouse and your children. Don't leave them. You can include your spouse if you're
That's
legally
allowed
married.
to leave them? No, to leave them?
Yes, sadly, yes. And children under the age of 21. So pick your favorite. Well, pick them all. But if not, pick your favorite and under the age 21, bring them over. Awesome. Interesting trick for your spouse. You, as the investor, are tied to your investment. So you have to work your investment. But your spouse will also get a work permit. Have them work. Maybe they can find another status, another residency, another petitioner. So there are many options for the investor visa, which is why it's so attractive.
Right. And it's important why they talk to you first so that they can plan it out. And then from there, they can go to the professionals that they need to get the business or
Yes, the E2 is definitely a team effort. You need that business lawyer, you need the business plan. You would not, in my humble opinion, I know colleagues do it, but in my humble opinion, you may want the attorney to only do, the immigration lawyer to only do the immigration side, dealing with what immigration wants, what the consulate requires, and not with the business development aspect. You want to do that with somebody who knows the market and can help you have a successful business, which you will need to renew your visa.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about that. Why don't you do the business side?
Well,
I know why I don't do the immigration. That's for sure.
Well, because my horror stories come from people who touch it all. And I've seen cases in which I recently did a great client who is selling sugar. I know it sounds simple, but he's selling sugar. But the business plan was created by clearly an immigration lawyer, which she knew what she needed to file to get the visa approved. But when it came to renewal, there were many things that were not included in the business plan because the business itself, the business side, we don't know that. We're immigration lawyers. So for example, you need to go to Walmart apparently and get permits and go to markets and get permits. All those steps that he spent years doing under this E2 visa were not included in the business plan. By the time to renew, I'm like, where are your employees? And he said, well, I didn't have time to hire because I was busy doing this. And I'm like, how am I going to justify you wasting your time on this thing which was essential but not included in the business plan? That's why you might not want an immigration lawyer to do your business plan, because we see, hopefully, many people with many different businesses, and you want somebody who understands business law and the market, not somebody who does immigration law.
Right. That's why I don't do immigration. There's too much to know and not enough brain capacity. It's just
you
a lot.
You have the capacity, but it is a lot.
It's exhausting. I think there's a popular phrase for Latinos is zapatero para su zapato.
Claro.
I know what I know and I do what I know. But outside of that, I love having team and trusted allies and colleagues that I can just trust that they'll do a good job by my client.
And it's the best way to guarantee success for the client too.
Right.
So you do it because we like to win. That's why we do it.
Right.
And it's good to have that team. For the E2 is definitely essential, but that would apply for most visas, I must confess. The L that we mentioned before is another one that requires a team. The business attorney is really essential for the business to succeed, and you need the immigration lawyer for the visa.
Right. So tell me, when your client comes and sit with you, what do you see is the concerns, the main concerns that they have, whether those are personal or with their business? What is stressing them? What is it that they have on their mind that they're trying to solve?
2 points you already mentioned. How much do I have to invest? It's always a concern. I tell my clients if they really want a number, because it really will stress them out. If you want a number in a perfect world, you would have 250,000. But the reality is, like I said, 250 in the bank, just chilling, hanging out, not invested,
Right.
will not help you. Second, we talked about bringing the money in. We have the multiple trips, and I'm always bringing $9,999. Understand that you will have to track it, so it's good to already start building a relationship with a bank, finding, that's why the team is essential.
Right.
Family. Will I be able to bring my kids? The schedule for school starts here. When are they going to get here? Which goes to the fourth, which we also discussed, time. How long is this going to take? Because if I'm going to bring my child who's in first grade and he starts school now, how difficult is it going to be? Especially the older they get. Oh, he's a teenager, he's in high school, starting in the middle. That's normally a stress factor for many of my clients. Lastly, not knowing what to do. I know I want to come to the US, what do I do?
Right.
And when you're already here, that can be difficult. You get 6 months as a tourist, 3 months if you're an ESTA, and I have to tell you, okay, you have 6 months to figure out what you want to do. And those 6 months are per year, technically. So you run the risk if you spend 5 months and then leave, coming back and then only getting 1 month in.
Right.
So waiting till the last minute tends to stress people out when they're looking to stay permanently in the US.
So would you recommend that they start doing that search while they are in their country? Because Zoom is a big thing, and I know that there's business brokers and other professionals that can help via Zoom. So do you recommend them using that option?
Yes, I recommend at least a basic Google search at the very least, at least a phone call, at least a Zoom meeting, whatever we can do. Now, I've noticed, even after doing that, you're going to want to come in. You're going to want to see the place that you're going to buy, or the location, or the business, or maybe meet a partner if you're doing something like that.
Right.
So during that trip, understand that you might not be staying during that trip. And if you do need time, definitely talk to the lawyer at the beginning of the trip, not when your 5 months are up.
Right.
Because you may be able to get an extension of your time, and it's understandable if you're investing, you want to be here, work on your investment.
Right.
Also distinguish working on your investment and working. You can't pay yourself, you're not getting a salary, you're not an employee, you don't have permission to do that, but you can definitely spend money here. That's always welcome.
Awesome. And what about people that already have a business set up here, right? And they want to apply for the E2 visa. So the business has already been running, let's say, for 2 years, right? They bought an existing business. How does that look different in the visa process versus someone who's starting from zero? They built their business, but they have that business plan that's a little bit of an estimate and guess, right?
So we have two categories here. The E2 is interesting because we're not very creative in immigration, so we have E1 and E2. E1 is for people who already have a business that may be going. Typically, it will be an import-export business. I do this a lot for my Italians who bring olive oil. So if you like olive oil, you're welcome. So they will already have a business investment. They're bringing their olive oil, and they're like, we should open an office in Miami or wherever. It will be easier. But we need to invest and open and do, okay, let's do the E1 because the business is already established, you're already going. The E2, if you're gonna buy a new business, it's essential that you, once again, have that business plan and you do a market analysis of how is the business plan gonna look like.
Okay.
If you're going to purchase it from somebody, make sure you get full disclosures. Going back to horror stories, it's difficult once you start and then you realize, oh, you needed this license that area no longer provides. The many people like to purchase existing businesses because will purchase with the license.
Right.
That's where the attorney, the business lawyer, you are essential.
Do due diligence.
Exactly. So it really depends on what type of business you're bringing, and if you're purchasing, even more reason why the business attorney needs to be involved to understand what are you getting, and if you're starting from scratch, study the market.
Awesome. All right. So tell me what you think that every E2 client should know when coming here to build a business for an E2 visa. What's something that you feel like they cannot come here without knowing this?
First, two things. First, the business, the money needs to be at risk. And at risk is a term of art. Not a lot of people understand it. For us, we use it so much that it becomes like common sense, obviously at risk.
Right.
At risk means you must spend it. This is a circular visa. And I get the shocked clients who maybe already hired everyone, but the business is not done.
Right.
And then the concern is, but I'm going to spend this money, and what if I don't get it? That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the risk. And I know
It is so scary for them. I get it.
Terrifying, of
Yeah.
course. Especially the greater the investment, the greater your chances for the visa,
Right.
the scarier the transaction.
Yeah.
So the money needs to be at risk. Number two, the U.S. has specific licensing and requirements that you must follow. That's why a good attorney should delegate. So if you are look at the requirements of your business. The very common, simple example, I get a lot of hairdressers. You need a license to be a hairdresser. So you may be investing on your building your salon, creating it, having the employees, but you still need that license. Right. So if you're not gonna get that license, that might be an additional step that you didn't consider, and maybe you didn't need that license in Peru or wherever. Right. It was not a treaty country. Let's find out. France. You don't need it. Or you can open a bakery in Italy and not need licensing, and here you do. So it's good that you know the requirements of the business you want to build in the U.S. It's very important because it might be a roadblock if you're trying to get the visa at the end.
Right, and it varies by industry.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And by area too.
Right.
You may have a bakery next to it and then you want to open and they tell you, no, that bakery has a permit from 2010 and since 2011 we don't get them. So it's very important that you know the area, the requirements, and what are your own requirements for the business.
Right. With the wonderful social media that you love so much,
I despise it with all my soul.
You know that there's so much false and erroneous information out there and a lot of myths that go, especially with immigration.
Oh my God, yes.
What are a couple of ones that you've heard that you're like, no, completely not true?
Besides distinguishing that a notario or notary and a paralegal is not a lawyer, also remembering that a lawyer in one country is not necessarily a lawyer in the U.S. Right. Keeping in mind that when we're opening businesses here, the requirement of, well, I've been here for 10 years, 15 years, or a certain amount of time, that's never going to be enough for immigration. There has to be something tied. Time alone is not enough unless there's a change in law that allows it to you for temporary protected status, etc. What you read on WhatsApp might not be the same as the law, right. So be careful of that. I know Google can be very dangerous, but it can also be your best friend. You might want to spend the time Googling whoever told you, gave you specific advice. And this may sound, I don't want to be pessimistic because I like immigration, but if it sounds too simple, there might be a reason.
Yes.
Like right now, as I'm speaking with you, I'm trying to emphasize that it's a great visa and we have great options, but people should definitely consider them, but in no way am I minimizing that. It is complicated. There's a reason you need many attorneys involved, right. And anyone who tells you, oh no, that's easy, huge red flag, run away, there's a problem there. So those would be my biggest tips. If it's easy, it's something going on.
That's so funny because that reminds me of, I had a professor in law school. She's my favorite professor, and she said, whenever you think a case is simple, that's probably going to be your hardest case. You wait for the surprises.
Yeah.
And that's so true. I know on my side, everyone's like, oh, we can just set up an LLC on Sunbiz. I'm like, yeah, if you know how to structure it correctly for what you want.
Or Pepito can do it for me because he's cheap, so he can get it done. Yeah, right. Lo barato sale caro.
Lo barato sale caro.
So, and in our profession, I think it's often like, well, you did this so quickly, so why? Understand that it takes a lot of time and experience and effort, and every business is different. So if it's too simple, run.
Yes, I know. It's like my clients are like, oh, can you just send me a template? I'm like, you think that's what I spend hours on?
I got that on LegalNet. I just downloaded it online. Oh my God, legal so, oh my God.
Yeah, and especially for the foreigners that have to deal with USCIS, it's so important that everything on there is on point and customized to them.
I'll give you a little horror story of simple things that we ignore. Sometimes when you call for an interview, they'll tell you, okay, bring me a recent picture. And if you maybe forgot to share that with your attorney and you show up with your picture, I cannot tell you how many cases of phone calls I've received after the fact in which they're like, oh, I got rejected because the picture that I brought was the same picture as my passport picture that I took in 2016. So they realized that it was not a recent picture. So we have to start over, or it's going to take longer, or it's going to. Those are
Really
minor, silly things. And I'm like, this is why you need a professional guiding you and telling you.
That does it every day.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Or, I forgot to tell you that I came in 2019 and I just stayed for 2 years. But, it's not a big deal. No, you may want to. Yeah, maybe there's a way around it, which
Right.
I guess would be my tip. Tell your attorney everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Word
There's
vomit.
no judgment, and we want to know everything, so that way we can guide you the best. Because a simple white lie can destroy an entire case.
For the picture thing, now you piqued my interest. If they have a picture of them as brunette and now they're blonde, does that affect it?
Well, most likely the picture is going to be requested after the consular officer met you. So if you show up as blonde and then you show up again with your picture and you're still blonde and the picture's brunette, they might be like, come on, did you just diet for that one day? So they will remember. I shouldn't say they will remember you, but they might.
But be safe and just take it.
Take a picture.
Take a selfie.
Picture. Even if you look bad that day, just do it. Take a new picture.
Okay.
And you may. This happens a lot with diversity, also known as the visa lottery, in which it's a simple process. You're chosen. That's it. You did everything so close. Oh my God, you're gonna come in with a green card. Oh, you brought the picture from '95.
Oh no.
That's it. You lost everything. Your family's stuck.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And the response from the government is like, well, it was free. So you didn't really lose anything except your hopes and your dreams. So yeah, take pictures. Keep a lot of pictures of yourself. Don't use the same one.
Good to know. I think that's going to be the number one. Well, then we'll finish up with this. What is your number one piece of advice for someone that's looking for an investor visa here?
For an investor visa or for any visa, plan ahead. I am surprised by how many people call me saying, oh, when I get to the US, I'm going to do this. When I get to the US, I'm going to do that. And when I get to the, no. Plan ahead. Have that phone call. Consultations, yeah, they might charge you. It might be $100 that you wasted in 30 minutes. But in those 30 minutes, you're going to
invested in those 30 minutes, not waste.
Choice. Definitely. It's worth investment because you will be able to say, okay, now I know that I maybe need to look at this area. Maybe I can open this business instead of going and having 6 months to figure out what you're going to do. Also, know the requirements of your visa. Right. You may be in Peru trying to invest and then come to the US for me to tell you, I'm sorry, your country's not listed as a treaty country. And you have the disappointment of, what do I do now? I already sold the business that I had abroad, so I don't even qualify for an L. That it's the investment that it's worth it. Plan ahead. We want you here. I will definitely help you come and stay legally. But plan ahead. Don't just wait to get here. ESTA is also known, like I said, the visa waiver program. You cannot change your status. If you come with an ESTA, you will have to leave. So you may want to keep that apartment for when you go back home just to get the visa to come again.
Don't make any big changes without talking to you,
Just
basically.
Slow. Exactly. That's it. In a nutshell,
that's the advice.
Yes.
Isa, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
It's always fun hanging out with you. Thank you so much for having me. And for any questions, you know where to call.
All right.